Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We are finally back, the Neville Goddard podcast. I'm your host, Bryguy, 7571. And with me, as always, is my good buddy, my partner in crime, brother in Christ, Anders. Anders, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be doing this. It's been on my heart for a while that we need to get back out there and record some more.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And
What are
we
we going to talk about
apologize.
today? Oh, yeah, we have to apologize for
Well,
it
first
first.
of
Let's
all,
get the apologies out of the way.
yeah, we want to say we're sorry for our longer than expected absence, but with family stuff and sports stuff and coaching and church stuff and everything, it just we got kind of busy. So, but we're glad to be back and excited to talk to you. We got a great topic tonight. It has been something that Anders and I have been talking about a little bit before we jumped on the recording here, and I've been kind of sharing with him too how much it's helped my current clients understand things, believe, and really kind of take it to the next level. And that is, go ahead, Anders, I'll let you announce the topic tonight.
You have the data. That's what it is. You have the data.
Yep, you have the data. So start analyzing it, start looking at it, start realizing, and that's what's going to help you believe.
And because everyone's coming to you, right? Aren't there all these people like your clients are complaining, like, oh, how do I know it's going to work? How do I know it's
they're not
happen?
complaining, but yeah, they're like, they whine,
They whine. All right.
No, they don't really whine. No, they're just kind of like, well, it's different once they've been doing it for a while and they have the data to look at it. At first, yeah, it is very, like myself and you even, you're skeptical because you're going, oh man, I really hope this works, but I found it from a very strange way on the internet. And then, you heard me or some YouTube coach or whatever talking about stuff, and you're like, does this stuff really work? And I mean, I can't speak for anybody on YouTube, but I can speak for Neville and what Anders and I preach, which is constantly testing it, constantly studying the books, constantly studying the Bible and the promises that Jesus and God made to you. And you do that through the testing. But what a lot of you guys are forgetting is that the way I have you guys do the testing and the same way I have my clients do it is you pick 3 things that you want to see and 3 things you want people to say or do. Now, what a lot of you guys forget is, 1, pick things you don't care about. So if you don't see them, who gives a shit? But, and don't put them on the pedestal. And then don't worry. If you don't care if you see them, you don't worry. And that's to show you guys that if you don't worry, you don't waver, you believe it's possible to happen also, it's very likely to. But when it does, what you guys are forgetting is that is manifesting. And the reason it feels so easy is because you pick something that would feel natural, so that you can understand what the feeling of naturalness is. But on top of that, a lot of you guys are forgetting when you're doing the you pushed out part of this, which is the getting people to say and do the things you want them to say and do, you are performing telepathy. You are literally telling people mentally, no, 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 go bring me a Coke. No, 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 no. Tell me howdy. And they're doing it. And you're like, oh, no big deal. You just talk to somebody through your mind, and at times there are people you don't even know, and you're forgetting that that's what you just did and that you have superpowers. And the only reason you do is because God gives them to you. He's showing you that, hey, if you do this right, you don't worry, you don't waver, you believe it's possible, watch what you can do. And that's him telling you, I'm real, I'm here, this works. And the key is to not worry and to believe, because that's what your free will is. You have free will in your world, but it's not like you guys think where you can reject this or that. Free will means God saying you have a choice. You can believe or you don't believe. If you don't believe, you don't get anything. Neville tells you that. God tells you that. If you do believe, there's nothing that's impossible. So you're getting the data to look at and say, holy shit, I just told John to do this with telepathy. Holy shit, this stranger who I've never met, I said somebody's going to say this phrase and they did. Somebody will wear this hat and they did. And you guys are just overlooking that and being like, oh, does it work? Oh, it was just a coincidence. That's what Neville tells you it's going to feel like. So
it's going to feel natural. It's going to feel normal that it worked out.
You're getting the proof. So, Anders, I know you had some wonderful Bible quotes that you wanted to go over tonight. Do any of those relate to what we're talking about right now?
Oh, no, I mean, absolutely. But one of the things I was thinking about too with what you were saying was, I feel like a lot of times what happens is people like to focus on the thing which hasn't happened yet, you know, instead of focusing on and remembering all the things which have happened. And I think that's a big part of the problem, is that they're like, well, I mean, it hasn't happened yet. So, I mean, is it going to happen? I can't believe, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, yeah, but you have all this data here, which you could look at.
Yes. And
to show you that things have happened before.
Yes. And that's a good point too, because you have another set of data, which is all the stuff that you worried about and you did believe in, because you can't worry about something unless you believe it, that happened. The people who are like, oh, I'm going to get a third party, and they get a third party. Oh, I know I'm going to get fired, and they get fired. Those are manifestations. You guys act like manifestations are only when somebody gives you money or love or a car or whatever. You're manifesting every single experience you're having in your life. So why not do that consciously and steer your life in the direction you want it to go? Like Wayne Dwyer talked about, and he was a student of Neville's, segment intending. He would break his day up into different segments and say, in this next segment, I'm going to jump in the shower. It's going to be the best shower I've ever had. I'm going to get out and eat my fresh fruit, and it's going to be delicious. My coffee is going to come out perfect, just the way I like it. There's going to be no traffic on the way to my, speech today, and life is good. And then he would do it for the next part. The speech is going to go so well. And then the next part, dinner is going to be delicious. And it seems so silly, but a lot of times those are the little things that set us off. And then we get mad about that. We lose focus, and then we're like, and she won't show up and call me, and he's being a dick, and blah, blah, blah. And that's how it all starts. And then you spiral.
Yeah. Your perspective on your whole day goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've done that with each other, right?
Yeah. It's true.
We've had to say, shut the fuck up. Stop talking like that. And so, you guys have to realize that the proof is already there. So that's why I say on the sub, you're not allowed to ask how to do it, because it's in the books. And how to believe, I'm sorry, guys, but we're not you. We don't know how your mind works and what makes you change your beliefs about something.
Yeah, we don't know what thoughts are going through your head.
Yeah, so if you're a logical person and you need data, well, this is perfect for you. Testing it gives you the data. If you need proof and you need to see it with your own eyes, again, testing gives you that proof that allows you to see it with your own eyes. I think so many of you, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I think also too, one of the things we always encourage people to do is to create a list of memorial stones. So start, asking God to open your eyes, be available to see what's happened. And every time something cool happens, write it down and just be like, wow, that's right. This amazing thing happened to me, and just write that down. Then when you're feeling anxious or worried or about something, then you can go back and look at that, and that could help build your faith and belief and your hope.
Yeah, that's why I have you guys write the testing down, because that's the advice Anders gave me. And every time I doubted, he would remind me, dude, look at your notebooks with all the things you wrote down and you made people say and do, and you said you were going to see and you did. Like, there's tons of them, and I still do it. I still make the list, and I walk outside, and now, because I practiced it so much, things will happen, all 6 of them at one time. One guy will be wearing the shirt, the hat, this, he'll say the phrase, he'll be riding the bike and whatever. Sometimes it's, to the middle of the day or something. And whenever I say, oh, no, this hasn't happened yet, which I don't really do that much anymore, but if I do notice something hasn't shown up, I go, who cares? It'll find me. I'm not looking for it. And as soon as I let it go, and then I say, God will show me anyway. He's not going to fail me. And then all of a sudden, someone comes up and goes, howdy, in the middle of New York City. Hey, you look like Spider-Man. And not just one person, but 5 people. I don't look like Spider-Man. I'm the furthest thing. I know I look really young for my age, but I do not look like a teenage boy who would wear a spider suit. I look more like a linebacker. I would be a very large Spider-Man. So I wouldn't be the skinny, scrawny kid. You'd be like, oh, that's Spider-Man.
Maybe they're insulting you. They're trying to say you look
bad. So, well, that was like when my daughter, we watched the Spider-Verse movie, and she's like, Dad, you remind me of that Spider-Man. I was like, not the guy in the beginning with the six-pack and everything? Like, Dad's not really fat. She's like, no, you remind me of this one. I was like, the guy with the beer belly. And, and her mom was like, no, not what he looks like, that he's like the leader. He has dark hair and a beard like you do and blue eyes, and he's really patient and good with kids. Like, she's saying, Dad, you're that Peter Parker, the leader guy. And at first I was a little like, but wait a minute, the guy in the sweatpants with the beer gut, and, I was like, I know I don't have a six-pack, but I don't have a beer gut. So yeah, it was just kind of funny. And she's like, you're missing the point of what she's saying. Get in the moment. I was like, oh, that's really beautiful. She loves those movies and loves watching them with me. And she thinks it's hilarious now that in the movies, the second one, he realizes he wants to be a parent, so he has a baby, and their baby is really funny. It just like literally craps on the bad Spider-Man's, like it'll climb on the Spider-Man. You're like, ooh, and then you just hear, bleh, and it's like you realize the baby just shit all over like the bad guy. And so she finds that stuff very funny, but she loves those movies. So, but yeah, I mean, when you ask God to prove it to you, he will, even when you don't fully believe. And then when he's giving you these blessings, you have to be real and say, this has to be God, because I just thought this in my head. I've never met this man or this woman. They're wearing the three things I wanted somebody to wear. And on top of that, they're coming up, they're holding the door like I said somebody would. They bought me a cup of coffee. They said howdy to me while wearing the purple hat, the green shoes, and the yellow t-shirt. Like, holy crap, this works. And you have to say, I get that it feels natural, but this is definitely God. And I get that this feels natural, but I said in my head, somebody out there say howdy. Somebody out there open the door, and they did it. That's telepathy. Neville talks about it. He tells you how to speak to somebody in your mind. And that's what you guys are missing, is that you guys are crying, my SP's not here, I'm not seeing anything. Well, who cares? Imagination is wonderful. I can sit here and get quiet and imagine talking to Anders, and I will hear his voice. I will see him. I will, smell the leather from his bag that he carries, like, or his cologne or something will just, remind me. Like, I can literally use my senses and put myself in that place. It's like when you guys think about eating pickles, your mouth starts to salivate. There's no pickle in front of you, but your mouth is salivating. You're like, oh, because I remember what it's like to eat a pickle. Imagination is really powerful,
Absolutely.
So, Anders, is there anything you want to kind of add to this?
Yeah, well, one of the things I was reading was the Neville Goddard's lecture, Believe It In, and there's some good quotes I wrote down. And one of the things he quotes from the Bible is John 20:30-31. And it relates to what we were talking about. And it says, so then many other signs Jesus also performed in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. And then this is the key quote, but these have been written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. Right. So there's the data which has been provided so that you can have life, going forward. You can it can create life in you, so that even though you don't know what's going to happen in the future or how it's going to happen, you can have that life.
And the other great thing, and Anders, you could definitely expand on this, is the entire time Jesus is here and he's performing all these miracles, he's like, hey, I know, it's great, it's wonderful. The blind guy's healed, this person, the leper guy is healed, everything. But he's like telling you guys, but you guys are here to do better. You guys can do all this and more.
It's true.
He's literally telling you, you're all that in a bag of chips. He's saying to you, like, if you think that I'm great, wait till you use this power and you create like me, because you're a creator. That's what God has no form. So when he says created in the image and likeness, it's really important you listen that he says created, because he's telling you, I created you and you are a creator. And we all know now the universe expands more and more with more people that are in it and more matter, more everything. And that's because all these people are creating new circumstances, timeline, whatever it is that makes the universe, there needs to be room for all these new desires, all these new creations. And every single thing on this planet was just once in someone's imagination. The headphones we're using, the phones we're using, the app we're using, the stuff you're using to listen to this was in someone's head once. And there was no proof it could happen. And Steve Jobs is a perfect example of that. He didn't even want to figure out how to do it. He's just like, hey, put 1,000 songs in a little box that my daughter can carry around because I don't want her searching for CDs while she's driving. And they're like, how? He's like, that's what I pay you for. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Because he was the visionary. He's we live in his world to a large degree because he knew about all these things that need to be. Like if you go back and read his like Playboy interview from the 80s, you can see he had this vision of where he wanted things to go, and the technology wasn't there in the 1980s, but he kept with his vision and kept believing it in for sure. And now we are all benefiting from that.
Yeah, James Cameron, another perfect example. The technology wasn't there for some of the films he wanted to do. He had to wait till 2009 to shoot Avatar, and he had to go and literally find people to create the technology he needed. And then the other movies were going to be even more complicated. So that's why there was like a 10-year gap, because he said we were creating the technology to make them, And I think they're going to go on till I think almost 2030.
That's crazy.
And it's because he's trying to develop the technology while shooting these films, So everything started off as a desire, and somebody then had to imagine what it could look like. And even if they didn't know what it would look like, what the iPhone would look like, what the iMac or this or whatever, they sat down and got clear on it. They sat down and made a decision.
Yeah, they had a clear vision of what they wanted. Yeah, how it all to come together.
And that's what helped them believe too. Because it went from just an idea in their head to forming a visual on it, and then kind of figuring out how to mess with it and make it happen, and then realizing and getting clear on what it looks like, how it would work, specs, all of that, drawing it, and then they made a decision that this is it. I'm going to go forward with this design, and it's just going to become a thing. And then they just didn't give up. They persisted until it was done.
So I got some more Neville quotes. Okay, so one of the ones which I highlighted was, and this is the Believe It In lecture. I found it online. Just look up Neville Goddard, Believe It In. You can read the lecture. And I don't know if there's a good audio copy though. I don't know if there's a good recording anywhere. So anyway, Neville says, I find the great fallacy of the whole world in this art of believing is perpetual construction and deferred occupancy. So it's like people think about it, think about the construction or the design, but occupancy is incubating the dream. And he says, what do I mean by occupancy? I mean thinking from instead of thinking of. So when I see that, I think of the word inhabiting. I can stand here and think of something for the rest of my days, think of owning this, or I can think of something I'd like to do. But until I actually occupy it, I dwell it, and I look at the world from it, or I would say from within it, I haven't incubated it. I haven't fertilized it. So that's what the things he's talking about is, imagining as if you are there and as if you are doing it and as if it's real and you're in the midst of it, rather than it's something sort of far off and remote and something you can never actually touch or never actually get to. It's sort of out there, unreachable. Yeah, so that was a good quote. So I think that helps illustrate. Yeah,
and I think Neville also kind of expands on that too in other ways when he kind of talks about I forgot what I was going to say. It was really good. He talks about not so much, it's not so much that we want to get the desire, right? Like that's great and all. But what we're really wanting when we have a desire isn't even necessarily the desire itself, right? The woman, the car, it is the feeling that we get from obtaining it is what we're really looking for.
It's the whole package. Right? And, but yeah, I think the feeling is important.
And that's the beauty of imagination is you can say to yourself, okay, I don't have it, but what would it feel like if I did have it, and kind of picture yourself in that and let it incubate as well. And, like let it sit there and grow and kind of, become bigger. And, sorry, I'm fumbling with my words tonight, but, let it get the feeling of what it would be like to have it, because you don't need to have something to understand the feeling of it. The desire gives you that. The desire is, I want this, I want this, I want this. And it also is like, and I want it because I'll get this feeling. So you know what the feeling would feel like. And you can literally just say, all right, well, what would that feel like? And then go, oh, it feels so good. Oh, I feel like if I really had it, what it would feel like. And that's what you're really searching for. So you can give it to yourself now. And that's how you can trick yourself into believing you have something that you don't really have yet. And your mind has no way of knowing.
If you don't do that, then you run the risk of, again, you're thinking about it from the position of not having it, which is why you're desiring it.
Or just getting it, the act of just getting it, which is one, in the future, and two, it is just getting it, but it's not really like I don't know, the feeling you're going for is the feeling of I have it, not the feeling of
accomplishment.
It's the feeling of accomplishment. Yeah, exactly.
So you're no longer in a state of desire, you're more in a state of satisfaction and experience.
Yes. The phase. Or like Neville says when he talks about the suitcase that was lost, what he did was, instead of picturing them handing him the suitcase and him going, yep, all my things are here, he said this suitcase was particularly heavy, didn't have a strap. It was more like a luggage, like one of those crates, like from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Remember the one John Candy had? Mm-hmm. It was like that, and he had it over his shoulder. And he says, I remember when holding it, it was heavy. My fingers were getting pinched. The grooves were digging into. I was getting skin imprints, and it was like hurting. And I was like, oh my God, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. And then what he pictured was the relief of sliding it off his shoulders, letting it go, and then squeezing his fingers because he was trying to get the blood to circulate back in them. Because the crate's handle was smashing against his hand and cutting off the circulation and making that, and then feeling those little grooves, the little skin imprints in his hand and how they kind of sting a little bit, but in a good way. And he was like that satisfaction of, not only do I have it, but now it's home. I've literally set it down. It's done. The whole process is over, right? All I have to do is open it up now if I need stuff, but like, it is home. I don't have to go pick it up still. I don't have to wait for somebody to find it. It's finished. It's here. And I'm flexing my fingers and getting the blood back into them again. That's what you guys are going for. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I think that's why I wrote down another thing, which is I remember when, which is to put it in the past tense. And so that's another aspect of it being completed. So rather than desiring it or wouldn't it be nice if, it's more like, it's nice because I remember when, or it's nice because I already have it. It already happened, and so that's good. And then it's interesting though, because actually some of the quotes I wrote down kind of really do clarify something, which is that, so it is that feeling, but there's also the other side of it, which is, I don't know, I'm going to quote it, which is feeling like you're there in reality and inside of it rather than outside of it. So let me read some quotes here. So how do I do it? By imagination. I can stand here and no power in this world can stop me from imagining that I am where I would like to be. You can't stop me from imagining that I am, say, in San Francisco. I desire to go to San Francisco and I haven't the time or the means. I will go to San Francisco in my imagination. So, I think actually it is interesting. I've heard different people have different ways of levels of being able to visualize, but I think there are things we can do to, remember what it's like to be in a place where we've been in the past and kind of look around. Oh yeah, if I looked over that way, I would see this thing. If I looked over that way, I would see this thing, and just sort of kind of recall and have it like what it's like to be in it, And so that's what he's encouraging you to do. just kind of like, and he says, if you do that, then he's going to, then he continue the quote, and things will reshuffle themselves to give me the time and the means. Then I'll be compelled to move across a bridge of incidents that will lead me from here to where I am in imagination, and I'll go to San Francisco. So it's interesting too, because this is the bridge of incidents thing, which we keep talking about on this.
Yeah, we keep trying to tell everybody it's not like something that you're like, has it started? And no, it's just the thing. It's the events that will take place. But I mean, the moment you start reading, the moment you start visualizing, the moment you start affirming, your bridge of incidents has started. It's just, are you going to finish it and cross it, or are you going to quit? You know?
Yeah. And part of that is, as Brian, you were saying earlier, is like, yeah, when you're just going about your day, you don't worry about it. You're like, oh, God will like make it show up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
the I remember when is great, because I just had that talk with my daughter. I call her Goose. So the Goose started a new sport. She's a really good basketball player. She's only played 2 seasons, but she's really, really good. Like, their team voted her like captain, and they call her the Rock. She goes, well, I'm more of a gem. You know, she's like the Rock's team. I'm more of a gem. So they call her the gem now. But so she started lacrosse, and she was like, Dad, I'm really nervous. And I was like, that's good. That means you care and you're going to try hard. And I said, we know that, because like ever since you signed up for it, you're sitting there with your little fiddle stick practicing cradling. Dad, put on a video. Dad. And she goes in a room and she watches lacrosse videos on how to shoot and how to pass and how to catch. And she takes it very seriously, which I'm like, man, this kid is like way better than I was at her age. I was like, yeah, I'll play. And I'd sign up. But so we were talking about, she's like, it's just going to be weird not being good at something. And I said, well, remember when you first started playing basketball? She goes, I do. Yeah, I remember when I first started, I couldn't even dribble. I didn't know how to play defense, but then we went to the park and you showed me, and I realized dribbling's not so hard. And I realized defense is just being fast and keeping up with them. And I knew I could do that. So I knew I was going to get better if I practiced. But yeah, I remember when I was not as great as I am now, because now she's really good, you know? Now she's like, you know, shutting down. There was this kid that was taller than me. This girl was like 6 foot. And I was like, this kid's in 4th grade. You got to be kidding me. You know, she was like 6'1" or something like that, you know?
Wow.
And
that's wild.
She, you know, I don't know exactly how tall the Goose is, but she's not close to 6'1". And the good thing was the girl's passing to this giant, you know, mecha of a child couldn't pass up high to her arms. And she figured that out early. So she was able to just jump up and put her hands in front of the girl's face and snack the ball as it was being passed to her. And she's like, and they were dumb. She goes, you could tell us all the time, Dad, no overhead passes, bounce pass. And they were overhead passing. So I just jumped up and stole the ball from them. This girl, we found out later, was averaging like 15 points a game. Again, 4th grader, 10 years old, 9 years old. That's crazy. And she didn't score once. Other teams we played, the Goose shut them down. Coaches were trying to recruit her after the game, like, who are you playing for next season? And she'd be like, my dad, you know. And me and Coach Jeff were like, us, you know, these are all our girls from last year. And she takes it seriously. And I said, so remember, you took it seriously, you practiced hard, and then what happened? She's like, I got good. And I was like, yeah, you did. So I said, so that's all that's going to happen with lacrosse. And she's like, yeah, that's why I'm already practicing, because I don't like stepping on a field and feeling like I don't know what I'm doing. So I said, well, in practice, we have 2-hour practices. You're going to do the first half is drills and skills. And the second half is you're going to play a game. You're going to scrimmage. And she's like, okay. So she was really nervous about the scrimmage. And she played and did really well in the scrimmage, especially on defense. She kept shutting everybody down, trying to score, and her confidence, you could see, went up. And she goes, I remember this is the same thing that happened in basketball when I got to practice. Yeah, I couldn't shoot as well yet, but I remember feeling really confident because I could shut people down on defense. And I had that today, Dad. It's just like I remember with basketball, right? So she was taking herself back to that place and remembering it, and then saying too, like, but yeah, it's so funny thinking of that, because I'm not that bad basketball player anymore. And that's why I remember when is so powerful, because it's like you're saying already you're there, and you're like, man, that was so funny that time I almost lost you and thought I could never get you back. That was so funny that time you broke up with me and told me we're never going to date again. Like, I mean, come on, you pretty much guaranteed we were,
And then I remember when you came back and
yeah. And I remember when you came back and how wonderful it was. And again, you're saying I'm living from it being done, right? When you do your sats, I tell you guys, pick an emotionally charged scene, like Neville says, that implies it's done. I gave my specific scene. I come home, I walk into the bedroom, and she's asleep on the bed. Our daughter's asleep on her pregnant belly. And she says, she fell asleep reading to her baby brother. And she looks at me and says, I love them both so much. Even telling the story, I get choked up. But that put me there. And I had it written down. In the morning, I would wake up every morning and read it right away. And then at night, before I went to bed, because I wasn't big on sats, I would imagine stuff in the shower while I was brushing my teeth and all that. And then I would either do like a lullaby, like, thank you, it's done, or I would say whatever affirmation and drift off to it. And but I mean, that's pretty much it. But the thing was, I did it all throughout the day because I realized there was so much time during the day I wasn't doing shit. I wasn't working. I wasn't any. And I was like, why aren't I affirming? And then when I wanted to let my mind get distracted and wander on all these stupid things like, oh, this is happening in the world, this political thing, this whatever thing, or, oh, this is going to fuck me over. And I'm like, whoa, stop. Because all the time I'm about to waste on this, I could be affirming. And what if that time that I wasted on this was just what I had left to affirm, and then it would be done. So what would I rather have? Wasting my time getting angrier about this event, whatever, getting out of the state, or staying in the state, and maybe I end up done at the end of this hour. I know at least I'm going to be that much closer at the end of this hour than I would be if I sit here and do this. And that's where you guys are always asking us, how do we control our brains? That's not something that, the answer to that is simple, and I'll keep saying it. You just fucking do it. There's no tip or trick. Well, what I do is I trick my brain with, no, it is, I'm going to make a choice, right? It's like when you're fat and you want to get skinny. You go, do I want instant gratification and eat this brownie? And then I'm going to get sad that I ate the brownie. I'm going to feel fatter. I'm going to get depressed. I'm going to eat more brownies. I'm going to get fatter. I'm going to get depressed. Or am I going to say, no, I don't want the instant gratification. I'm going to deal with the pain and face it. But I'm going to feel better tomorrow when I wake up. And I'm like, I didn't eat those brownies last night and I feel good. I didn't crash from the show. I feel like none of that garbage is in my system. Right. And then you feel better and you feel proud of yourself, which then motivates you. Then you step on the scale and you're like, oh, I lost a pound. You go, well, shit, I'm not going to eat a brownie and put it back on. But you guys got to start doing the things that also help you stay in the state. You got to make sure you're consciously creating, make sure you're watching your mind and not letting it wander, because that's where you guys go wrong.
Yeah. Well, and so, yeah, you definitely like to listen to an episode about mental diets, and there's probably stuff in other episodes as well. Yeah. And one of the big things is to, sometimes it can seem challenging to do this, but that's why you can't think two thoughts at once, right? So as we've said before, like, go think about something else. So Neville gives you examples here, like, okay, how can I, like, blah 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 blah. Okay, well, why don't you think about being in San Francisco then?
How would it feel
just think about
if
something
I had
random.
it?
I mean, I don't know. It's like, just, might not even be what's on your heart, but at least you're not thinking about something negative.
Yeah. If you're, and again, it's not even so much about feelings, because, like, honestly, your feelings, you can be angry as shit and still manifest a bunch of money, a person, all that. But what we're talking about is being distracted from the state. And a lot of times when you do bring in negative feelings, then you go right to whatever you're trying to attain.
Well, then you end up
and the negative feelings behind that.
When you end up inhabiting the state of negative feelings, and it becomes a perpetual cycle, and all you see is that negativity being played out and everything, working out in your disfavor, rather than seeing how things are working out in your favor. And then, as we have in the quote here, it's like, you will be compelled to move across a bridge of incidents. And maybe that's what some of you guys need to do too, is start being open to, you need to have your memorial stones, but then also maybe you need to start thinking a little bit about, like, well, how can I believe the bridge? Maybe you need to believe the bridges of incidents are possible. Okay, well, maybe you should ask, hey, do I have some examples of how some of these coincidences, which I think are like, but really were miraculous. Okay, well, why don't you think about what kind of led up to that and be like, oh yeah, that's right. Oh, I didn't even realize that. See, it really does happen. So I do have the data in the past as well. So that's a good thing to remember. And then
also analyzing the data of the bad things that happen and saying to yourself,
that's true.
Shit, when I really think about this, I was saying before that third party showed up, I bet you he's dating somebody. I bet you she met somebody. Or, I knew I was going to get dumped. And the other thing is, you guys telling me you can't imagine things is ridiculous, because for some reason, you guys can all imagine these horrible scenarios where they are kissing somebody else, dating somebody else, whatever, but then you can't imagine them doing that stuff with you. It's not that you can't imagine, it's that you're choosing pain and you don't want to imagine the good thing, because then, you have to stay in that place, and God forbid you actually feel good. A lot of you guys are addicted to this pain, and it's got to stop. And again, look at the data. You say, when the bad thing happened, I thought the bad thing was going to happen. I manifested that. We're always manifesting. So it does work. It works good and bad. And you have to realize God is a loving father in a way our parents never could be. And he says yes to everything, because the difference between our parents is they're protecting us from things. God's like, no. I'm trying to give you as many experiences as possible. So I don't mind if you skin your knee or you fall off the bike or bonk your head or get your heart broken, because you need to have these experiences to be a great creator, to know what you want and what you don't want. How are you going to know the type of man or woman you want to be with unless you date the type of man or woman you don't want to be with? How are you going to know when love is really good or the best it's ever been if you've never had bad love or limerence or obsession?
It also reminds me of too is that, sometimes they just have things with kids where it's like, they're just not going to learn until they burn themselves, which is why sometimes when I have kids in the kitchen, I don't put their hand on the fire, but I go watch this, move your hand with me and move it slowly. See how it's getting hotter and hotter the closer you move it. Okay. Yeah. Because if they don't really experience like that the heat's there, in a non-dangerous way, they might not believe it, and then they might just touch it. But now they're like, oh yeah, I can actually feel that. I'm not even touching it. I can feel it. So
you're very patient. My dad always had a very rough around the edges way. He'd be like, boy, it's like you need somebody that'll just fuck you up before you learn. He's like, you just want to fuck around and find out, man, because he always wants to learn the hard way. Damn it, man. And then he would get mad when things would work out for me, because I would say, Dad, it always works out for me. And he'd be like, one time it's not. And then, but again, I realize now that I know Neville, I really believed when I was being a smartass saying, look, the very least, I always break even. He would, one time I remember him saying, he goes, you really believe that? Maybe that's why it happens, I guess. I don't know. He goes, I've never seen somebody with a lucky horseshoe up their ass like you. He's like, but sometimes I pray to God that he'll let you get knocked upside the head so you'll learn the lesson, and not getting knocked upside the head really kind of stunted my growth emotionally, mentally, all that stuff. So that when I did go through all this stuff, it was really tough. So, but again,
there's an aspect of that, like the sovereignty of God, where like he does have limits on where things will go, but you don't want to test those limits. Like it's not fun for anybody.
You definitely don't. One thing I noticed with God too is when he does start to show you that it's working and he's giving you things, if you don't appreciate it, he takes it right back and says, okay, we'll earn it again. This time you're going to have to believe, because I gave it to you when you didn't fully believe. And then I gave it to you and you didn't appreciate it and you weren't believing that you were going to keep it. Like I had clients that got their dream jobs and then kept doing their bad behavior, like showing up to work late. And, like these tech guys are always like, I'll go in at noon and leave at 9. They're like, well, we're open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Like, that's when we fucking want you here. And they know deep in their heart that they're not acting right. So then they start to think they don't deserve things, and then they lose them. When you don't show gratitude for things and you don't look at the data and say, look, God is telling me he's real. God is telling me that I can create. God is telling me that he will make it happen for me too. he's going to say, okay, well then fine. I'll stop doing it for a while. Then you'll see what, you have been getting, and you'll understand that I am here for you and it was working. But when you didn't believe, then you don't get it, and again, that's how you learn, you grow, you realize I liked it better when God was helping me out. So maybe I should start believing in him and believing in myself, and then when you do that again, the great thing about God is he's very forgiving, but he has to be like a parent too, or like a teacher where they teach you the subject, but eventually you have to go take the test on your own. And that's not even, for any school. It's so that you understand it.
Yeah. It's more for you don't have to prove it to God, but you can prove it to yourself.
You don't have to prove anything to God. Yeah. God's showing you how to prove it to yourself so that you'll believe. Like if you want courage, he'll give you a chance to be courageous and show yourself you are, and then you'll believe moving forward you're courageous. When I look back at this journey, I was like, I don't know why I'm being such a pussy about this, because I've done some pretty crazy hard things. And one of the things I kind of always prided myself on was being really fucking strong, not taking no for an answer. But, I've never had this heartbreak thing really, except for one other time. And I didn't handle that well either. And I'm kind of being a baby about it. But like, eventually I got so sick of the crying and the this and that I just remember telling you, I was like, I'm just going to not let this shit in anymore. And then when I really meant that and did that, I started to get signs. Were they huge at first? No. It was like little things like didn't have an argument with her, or, I got $100, maybe not, $1,000, but $100 or, and I would be like, okay, great. I'm really grateful for that. And let me do that again. I can do it again. And then I would do it again and again and again. And I really paid attention to what my thought process was. Again, analyzing the data, I was saying, well, when we've argued, I was sitting here thinking, what a nasty bitch, and she's going to do this. And if I ask her this, I already know the answer. And I was like, stop. But when I just said, you know what, she's only loving, kind, and affectionate with me, and I only say that about her, the next time I see her, she happens to be very loving and kind and sweet, and, maybe not super affectionate with me. And I realized I didn't believe that one as much. I started saying affectionate, and then eventually that stuff turns around too. But I realized, like, the data tells me if I waver, I have more belief in the bad thing, so I'm going to get that quickly. But if I push it out and believe, then it makes the good thing happen and gives me a positive sign. So you've just got to get tough with yourself and say, the data proves that wavering gets me bad result. Being tough on myself and kicking the shit out of the doubt gets me, even if it's just a little good result, still a good result. And I can build from that. And then you start to realize you expect them to start showing up in a good way because they have been, and you're like, this is really working. So it starts working more and more and more. And that's how you do a mental diet. That's how you change your mind. That's how you believe.
Yeah. So
you got to look at that data that's right in front of you from all the testing that you do. Right? If you want to try to change your SP, first of all, you're not changing your SP, you're changing you. But test it on another person. Test what you think about that other person and see if they change. Show yourself that if you really believe the person that's an asshole at work is nice, watch them do a few nice things at first, come around, and then be like, you know what? Tell the story. He's really coming around. Man, he's really being nice now. And watch how he gets nicer and nicer. And never go back to the old story. Like, well, it's any day now, be an asshole. Just keep going. Wow, look at that. This time it was nice too. Another great interaction. Man, I'm really starting to enjoy talking to this guy even. And then watch how the guy just suddenly changes. And then you keep looking at that data. Well, last time I didn't complain about him and I said he was good, he showed up good again. But that one time I said, what an asshole, he showed up a really big asshole. But I had a lot of belief in that statement. Everything you need is right in front of you. It's already there. And you can keep testing it and, showing yourself. Because there's a lot of you guys that tell me I'm logical. This whole metaphysical shit doesn't work. Well, this is how a logical person would do it. This is how a logical person would prove it to themselves.
You can do an empirical test.
Yeah.
And go back and look at the actual historical empirical data and see, okay, well, was this showing you? What kind of evidence is this showing you? And Brian makes a good point. It's not just the positive things, but it's also the negative things. And we don't want you to dwell on the negative things, but hey, if that's what's kind of showing up for you right now, then take a look at that, because you'll probably see the same thing. So
and make your weaknesses your strengths. If you're going through the shit, be like, well, I can guarantee that I did say this. And the other thing, guys, you have to realize this. Neville says that vain affirmations don't work when you're all these people are like, why do I get the opposite? Because you don't believe the statement you're saying, you don't believe the sat you're doing. But he tells you, when you're not believing, be ready for the shit to hit the fan. But don't mind it. Just ignore it. Keep your head down and push through until you start to believe. And then what happens is all of that shit reverses and you start seeing the results that you want. But there is that time when you're new to it and you're trying to you're struggling with it, that you're going to do those affirmations, the sats and all that, and you're going to get the opposite at first. You got to just say, fuck it, whatever. I'm cleaning house. And ignore it and be like, nope, it's not going to happen. This is going to go away. It's going to get better. I just got to say this more. I got to beat it in my head more. I got to believe it. I got to let go. I got to jump, whatever the hell it is you want to call it. And then you're going to see when you do that, when you say in the bad things looking in the face, you go, get out of here. I trust you more, God. I know this is the plan. I get it. I'm going to believe more. That's proving to God you believe. You're getting the opposite and you're saying, I still believe. He's going, well, my man's a believer now. So now I got to give him some signs that it's working. And you can turn that part around easily. I mean, for me, like I told you guys, it was about a week and a half. And I felt like I was going fucking nuts. All you guys are like, I don't like doing affirmations because like I get a lot of anxiety. Good. It means you're beating the story back. If you're not getting anxiety, if you're not feeling that pressure, it means nothing's happening. If you're getting anxious by saying it, it's because the story's going, holy shit, you're going to change me. You're going to get rid of me. You want that anxiety at first. You want to get to where you feel like you're going to break.
That shows that there's actual change. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's
because
saying
it feels off.
You're attacking.
You're doing something different for once.
Yeah, you're doing battle with the bad story.
Yeah.
And when you go to battle, it hurts. Nobody's ever been in a war and been like, I didn't get a scratch on me. Nobody's ever been in the boxing ring and been like, oh, Mike Tyson maybe. But, somebody ends up a little hurt, a little bruised. But the scars are also your memorial stones, right? Yeah. Who was it? The skater, Tony Hawk or somebody was like, I like my scars. They remind me of all the things that I've done, all the times I faced my fears and won.
So if you're feeling like it's hard, then we're explaining to you that, it can feel hard. That's fine. But that also means that you're moving in the right direction. So go ahead and just go with it, and
in fact,
for instance.
In fact, if you're saying your affirmations and it's not hard and you don't feel like you're going crazy, then you're not doing enough. I really was going to break. And I said, one more day. I took it a day at a time. And then one day I woke up and I was like, I believe this stuff. I have no anxiety anymore. I'm not fighting the old story. In fact, the old man is gone and this new guy's here. And when I say the story, he goes, hell yeah, damn right. No doubt. That's when you've gotten there. You guys all say, how do I know when I've gotten there? But again, we keep trying to explain to you, it's on the job training. And again, keep looking at the data in front of you. So if you thought bad thoughts and those bad thoughts manifested, congrats, you manifested. And if it happens really fast, congrats, you're an amazing manifester. What you guys forget is you'll manifest something in less than 24 hours really shitty, but that means you're a great manifester. You just chose to live in the wish fulfilled of what you didn't want instead of what you did want. So next time, all you got to do is tweak it and be like, I'm only going to live in the wish fulfilled of what I do want. I'm not going to entertain what I don't want. And if you're afraid of something, then you believe in it. So you better get rid of that fear. You better walk up to it and punch it in the dick and say, I'm not afraid of you. Pull its ass out of the shadow so you can see in the light it's nothing. The enemy, the devil, whatever you want to call it, they trick you and use the shadows. It's like the cartoons you would watch where Bugs Bunny looks and he sees this shadow of this big monster or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it comes around the corner. It's this little tiny, chicken hawk in front of a flashlight. And he's like, that's what I was afraid of. Or a great book is when my daughter was little, her favorite book was There Is a Monster at the End of This Book. And it's all about Grover telling you, are you crazy? Why are you turning the pages? I've told you there's a monster at the end of this book. What are you doing? And she used to love it. She would laugh because I would do the Grover voice, and and I was like, should we keep going? She's like, yeah, let's keep going. She thought it was funny. I was like, but Grover's getting so upset. She's like, I don't care. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And then at the end of the book, Grover sees a mirror. And he goes, oh, I forgot. I'm a monster. That was a horrible Grover voice. I was much better at it back in the day. But he realizes he was the monster and he's not anything to be afraid of. And the newer version, Elmo's even with him. He's like, I mean, come on, we're monsters too. He's even reminding me. He's like, no, but this is a monster. And almost like, we're literally monsters. Like, what if they're monsters like us? You know? And Elmo just keeps climbing under the pages, breaking the locks. And he's like, what are you doing? She loved that book. You know? But you guys got to realize that when you're the creator, you're the good, you're the bad, you're the monster, you're the hero, you're everything. You're the writer, the director, the producer. You got to really start looking at it like that. Life is a play or a screenplay or a movie that you're writing and directing and producing and acting in. And whenever people do things to you and you don't like them, go, that's my fucking fault. Why did I write that scene? I know, because I love a good drama. And the dad is there. I said she was going to be nasty, and she was. I said he was going to be distant, and he was. It's right there in front of your eyes. And then you go, shit, I manifested it. Hey, look at how fast that happened. I'm really good at manifesting. Now I've got to get good at watching what I manifest.
There we go.
This is how you believe. Yeah. This is how you do it. This is how you, when you're faced with the bad circumstances, you push through them. You fight. You guys are like, what can I do to tiptoe around this? Most people I find when I coach them, the one thing it takes them forever, the ones who get there quickly, this is what they do. They say, fuck it, whatever with my SP, with the money, whatever. And they go, what's wrong with me? Let me attack it and fix it. And then I'll believe I deserve everything. And they do, and they get everything they want right away. The ones that try to do whatever it takes to avoid fixing them, facing their fears, they take forever. They take forever. It's like you guys want to get back together with your girlfriend, but you have no money, no job, no nothing. She was supporting you. Again, I'm using myself as an example. My wife was paying all the bills, everything. And I'm like, I want her back. But deep down, I knew, like, well, first of all, your health is bad. It causes you to have mood swings when you're supposed to be monitoring your blood sugar, taking medicine. You're not doing any of that shit. Then you're tired. You can't take care of the baby. Then you feel like a shitty dad. Then you feel like she's going to get mad at you for not helping. So I was like, I got to fix that. So I fixed that. Money. Well, she's over there living with her dad, and her dad's paying all the bills, and she gets to keep all her money. Over here, she'd come back and have to pay for both of us again. I was like, okay, so let's fix it. Let's fix it so I can pay for everything too. Not just I can pay my half, which is all she wanted, but everything. And I fixed that. And then I believed when I started monitoring, my behavior and reacting and all that I had myself under control. And then I believed very easily that I deserved it all. And another thing was, again, analyzing the data, I noticed with my daughter, I really started to believe I was an amazing father, like a really great father. And everywhere I went, I mean, friends, obviously, but I remember cab drivers, I would be just having a conversation with my daughter about believing in herself. And, well, I know this is happening with your friend. Or sometimes I'd be like, what would you like dad to do? Give you advice or just listen? She's like, just listen. And, I would drop her off at her mom's on the way back. The cab driver was like, man, you're a really good dad. Like, you encouraged her. You just listen. You're very good at figuring out what she wants. And she seems to feel very safe with you. And I was like, this guy's never met me and he's telling me that, And I was always like, how is she going to see it? I was like, well, if this fucking guy sees it in 2 minutes, she's definitely going to see it. Because I bump into her more than I bump into the cab driver. Again, looked at the data. I was like, well, I'm believing this about myself. And now everybody's telling me this about myself. And if everybody else is telling me and not her, it's because I say she doesn't see it. So I stopped saying she doesn't see it. And I said, she sees it. She sees it more than ever now. She loves me more than ever now because of it. And I really believe that. And all of a sudden, she just started softening up and turning around and being nicer. And then I'd be like, wow, she was nice. And I'd be like, okay, she can be nice again, instead of going, well, that was that one time. But I was like, every time I've said that one time, then she gets nasty again. But when I say she was nice last time, she'll be nice again. The results were she was nice again. I really paid attention to those things because Anders was the one telling me too, memorial stone. So I was looking at all the things that I did manifest. And wow, I've got telepathy. Wow, like I can make people say and do shit. I can make people wear shit. I can decide that I'll see, red cars that I normally don't see in the color red or this and that. And my daughter was great at it too. She was an example. She'd be like, I'm going to look for pink and purple cars. And I remember purposely not telling her that that's not a normal color for her car. And I'll be damned if she does not still to this day always see pink and purple cars.
Nice.
And I've never told her that's not a normal color. In her mind, she's just like, and then one day she told me somebody said it's not a normal color. It's like, it is for you. She's like, yeah. I was like, whatever. I see them all the time. And again, like with lacrosse, she was like, well, you're right. I do remember when I didn't know how to play basketball. And then by the end of the first season, I was good. And this season, I was really good. And she goes, so it might take some time, but I'll do what I did with basketball. Let's go work together on it because then I know I'll get good. So she's setting herself up to succeed because she has the belief that while she's not terrific at it today, she knows if you practice and work hard, you will end up getting really good at it, And she's like, even if there are people more talented than me, I told her, I said, hustle and hard work beats talent all the time. I played football with a bunch of guys who were extremely talented, but didn't do shit about it. And I played football with guys who weren't half as talented, but would work hard at it. And their hard work made them a better football player than the talented guy. There's a scene in Rudy when he grabs the Vince Vaughn character and he's like, that sums up your whole career here at Notre Dame. You were scouted, recruited, full scholarship, touted to be the best player in the country, and you're a third string quarterback. This motherfucker didn't get recruited, begged to walk on, had to go to this other school first, and he's kicking your ass. Your talent doesn't mean shit when you have heart and belief.
Well, I think what's also encouraging is right. Well, I think what's also encouraging is that like Lucy was like the stories we have, like it's like people think of oh, I can't work out or whatever, but it's all right to be bad at things initially and to not and so what happens is you got to keep practicing, right? So that's what we're saying is keep practicing these things. And it seems hard now, but know that things can get better and you can improve in this area. So just, practice these, practicing.
And then don't stop practicing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You got to
make it a lifestyle. I remember when I got hurt with my knee and I went to go start working out again. I couldn't run. Like normally I could always get back in shape because I would go run 5 miles and no matter how big or small or whatever, I could always still do that. And then this time I couldn't. And all I could do was walk. And I was like, okay, well, let me walk on an incline because I heard that's better. And let me, slower speed, but still kind of trying to push myself. And the first week was brutal, man. I felt like I had asthma. My lungs were going to collapse. I saw people kind of laughing at me. And I remembered when in college, the same thing happened. And I get put on a bunch of weight and I was trying to get back in shape. I purposely went to go. My dad said, you should go work out at the Marine Corps gym because they'll motivate you. They'll laugh at you and it'll piss you off and you'll work harder. And sure enough, I got on the treadmill. I couldn't run for 5 minutes. And this Marine every day would laugh at me. And I remember I would wear all these layers of clothes to sweat it off. And 3 months later, I came in and I knew I could run really fast. I was really skinny. And I came in and for the first time took all the layers off and had just like these like little short running shorts and a tank top on. And people were like, holy shit, look at you, you're ripped. I was like, yeah, I know. I do 1,000 crunches up there, 1,000 sit-ups, all this stuff. And I'm lifting. And then I said to that Marine, I was like, you get on the treadmill. And I said, we're going to go and just, try to keep up with me. He's like, I'll keep up with you. When we were doing it, he couldn't keep up with me running forward. And I said, oh my God, my bad. You're not in as great a shape as me. I'll make this fair. I'll run backwards. And I started running backwards. And then the whole time I'm like talking to him, I was like, this is so nice. I was like, can you do me a favor? Because you are not good at this. You are not good at running. When I'm not here, will you practice? I remember I heard that in Swingers. Remember in Swingers when he's taunting his friend with the Sega game? He's like, you're not, do me a favor, but when I'm here, can you just practice, please? So that way it's a competition when we play, He's like, you're not good at this at all. And I remember everybody laughing. And then everybody at the gym was like, bro, that was amazing, But I could have yelled at the guy, could have been like, I quit and I'm fat and I can't run. But I was like, no, fuck this. I'm going to keep going. It sucked. It sucked. But every week it got easier and easier.
Well, it wasn't as bad as staying where you were.
Yeah. The only way it could have been worse is if I would have stole his girlfriend. you know? So he looked like an idiot. I was like, you do this for a living. And I am running backwards faster than you. And I was like, let me put it on an incline. Look at that. I'm still running faster than you. Backwards on an incline. And he's like, fine, I get it. And he quit. I saw that he was actually a quitter. And that's the kind of person that's going to make fun of you anyway. That's the kind of person that's going to try to detract you because they know they don't have the heart you do. And they need you to quit so they can feel good about themselves. So fuck them. Ignore them. But again, when you say to yourself and you look at that data, you go, look at that. That was tough. And I pushed through. Damn, I'm changing. And then your self-concept changes.
Yeah.
And if you were full of shit all the time like I was, that's why one of the first things I did was go to Anders and our other friend and be like, guys, I've been lying. I don't have a job. And they're all like, yeah, we know. I thought it was going to be a big reveal. I was going to be like, oh, no, the betrayal. It was like, no, we know, dude. You know, it was like when you watch those guys that come up, they're like, Mom, Dad, I'm gay. They're like, yeah, we know. We love you anyway. Really? Yeah. Okay. Well, can you help me get a job? And Andrew's like, yeah, that's all you had to do is ask. And remember, we sat down and wrote a resume and a LinkedIn page for me and everything. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. I actually look like somebody who might be able to get hired.
Yeah, well, it's so funny too because you were like complaining to me, like, oh, I can't get a job, like, blah, blah, blah. It's impossible. I'm like, yeah, but
I've been out of corporate America for 10 years.
But I'm like, but you actually have a real experience in an area where people want to hire you. So,
and it was right,
but that's because your self-concept was so wrecked that you know, and that's the problem is that all you could see was the negative things of what you don't have.
But my greatest weakness, that ability to bullshit, to try to convince people, ended up being my strength because it's why I became a good salesman, I guess, kind of too, right? Because I can paint a picture for you, you know, when I was a salesman and you could see the product or whatever working for you and it changing your life and making it better. You know, it's kind of like when people approach me about coaching too, I kind of do the anti-salesman thing and almost kind of like, prove to me you want this, because I don't want a client that is going to quit right away. And because I don't like taking somebody's money and they quit. And I want to work with people that we go from start to finish too. So you have to be financially stable, because if you can't afford coaching or you're going to put yourself in a bad financial situation to afford coaching, I don't want to be the guy that puts you there. And you need to work on that first anyway. Yeah, you need to work on that anyway, because that's part of what you have to fix to feel better about yourself. So go do that first. That's why the people who it's so easy for the SP to come back, they have the money, the job, they're living the dream life now. And the person just comes in and complements it. But they don't need them to have it at all. They've already got the dream life now. They're just like an extra bonus. And the great thing about God is he goes and works on them so they show up most of the time, if you believe this, fixed as well. And you realize that time you were apart, they were never going to date anybody else. Nothing was going to happen because God saw you working hard and he was going to go fix them too and open their heart up and turn it from a heart of stone to a heart of flesh as well. Just like he was doing it with you. If he's going to do it for you, why wouldn't he do it for them? And if in my situation, I broke her heart, she lost her faith, everything, the way God got her back was be like, look at what I did with the biggest asshole ever. If I can fix him, it must mean I love you. Right? Because you were like, I can't find anybody else. I can't be with him, but I can't find anybody else. So I went and fixed it for you to show you that with me, all things are possible. Even your idiot husband turning things around. And it was really hard to ignore that when our daughter was like, Dad is awesome. And never had any bad things to say about Dad. And, you know, the only thing was, she said, Mom says you say yes too much. And I was like, yeah, but you listen and you do what you're supposed to. That's why I say yes. You know, and I said, it's not like I'm saying yes to danger, like, yes, you can do heroin. I'm like, yes, you can get a cake pop, but one cake pop, you know, like I'm not sitting over here feeding you boxes of sugar and cupcakes and stuff either, you know. And she goes, no, I know. She's just like, Mom's a little more strict. And then her mom saw that and started to loosen up too. She goes, I told Mom that, like, you know, you don't give it to me like in a crazy way. And she's like, oh, I thought he was. So here, you can have some of this stuff here now too. And she would tell her mom, like, no, Dad's like really responsible. He doesn't let me have too much sugar. We go exercise, we go play. Like, he told me about how he is diabetic and he doesn't want me to get sick like that, you know? And I needed her to know that the mood swing, all that stuff was because I didn't know I was actually diabetic, and my blood sugar was going from 30 to 600, which is fucking insane. And it was causing crazy mood swings. But once I learned that, I figured, well, if I get that fixed, then I will stop being so erratic with my behavior and reacting and all that shit too. And everybody started to notice that. So I was like, well, then she will too. And I realized I had a story that, why doesn't she see it? And I had another client recently, there's like, why doesn't he see it? And we said, because you keep asking, why doesn't he see it? Instead of saying he sees it. And then when you say they see it, and you say it till you believe it. And again, you have all those memory stones, and you're like, God's coming through for me. I'm really changing. I'm not the same person I was. I'm not a bullshitter anymore. I'm not trying to manipulate people. I'm good on my own, with or without them. All this stuff, you really start to believe you deserve it. And then you go, well, why the hell wouldn't God give it to me? He gave it to me before when I was none of that. But now that I've changed and proven myself, I believe he's going to give it to me right away. And then he does. That's how you use the data. You can use the data to motivate yourself, to prove to yourself that God is real, to prove to yourself that he comes through for you every time. And when you look at it and say, well, I didn't get these 3 things, ask yourself, did I believe I was going to get those 3 things? Did I go looking for those 3 things because I didn't check them off my list yet? And I promise you 100% of the time, you're going to go, I did. I was worried I didn't get this. And I worried if I didn't get these 3 things, I wasn't going to get my boyfriend or my girlfriend back. So I went looking for them and trying to force them. And that's when things couldn't show up at all. I had a girl tell me she couldn't see an AIG marathon t-shirt, the New York Marathon. And at the time, my wife worked at AIG. And I was like, this girl works at AIG too. She's telling me there's no marathon t-shirts. My wife is like, it is obnoxious how these people are wearing the t-shirts. She goes, I'm standing next to a guy, one of my guys that that are on my team, and he's got his t-shirt over his suit, not like over his shirt and tie and put his jacket, like he put it over his blazer. And he's got the medal on. It's obnoxious. She goes, not to mention, there's a bunch of them in the damn lobby. How did she not see them? But everybody on my floor is walking around with these damn t-shirts and medals. And I said, take a deep breath, go outside, relax, and just say, who gives a shit if I see the t-shirts? And then give yourself 5 minutes and see what happens. She didn't even wait 5 minutes. You know, I missed the t-shirt in the lobby. Yep. They actually had a t-shirt from like the last 4 years in the lobby and the medals from the last 4 years. Everybody's wearing their t-shirts. She said the same thing to my wife. She goes, I just saw a guy with a t-shirt over his suit, not his shirt, his suit. And he's wearing the medal, like going, you know?
Yeah, I think that's part of what it is that a lot of times people spend so much time freaking out and feeling bad about themselves and feeling like they're not worthy and all that. And then they start acting crazy. And then, of course, like, then they're surprised that like other people don't want to be around them, or they're thinking negative thoughts all the time about, their significant person or, some other relationship. And then they're surprised that person doesn't want to be around them when they're
I remember
wants to be around somebody who's thinking bad things about you all the time.
Yeah. As a kid, I think maybe my ADD, I was very reactive. My dad would always be like, holy shit, calm down. Like nothing's happy. Even when I was going through the divorce thing, he'd go, look, I love you. I want to be here for you. But we do this every fucking week. You call me and tell me all these horrible things that are going to happen that haven't happened yet. And then what happens? I go, they don't happen. He goes, hey, look at that. He goes, so how about next time, instead of calling me, just have faith that it's also not going to happen again. And then we don't have to have this call, and you don't freak out, and you can get some sleep and, be there for your daughter. And I was like, okay, and that's what you guys got to start doing. And again, the data calms you down. The books, I cannot tell you how they calm you down. I do want to say this real quick.
Also good too, right? I mean, if you're reading the book, then you're not thinking the other thoughts, right? You can't think 2 thoughts at once. So at least you're distracted. Yeah. Okay. What did you want to say?
No, I just want to give people a little warning. I noticed that a lot of these videos that I've seen on YouTube, because I'll go to look for lectures to listen, like on the treadmill or like when I'm cleaning and stuff, are not Neville lectures. They're an AI Neville voice, and it's some guy's lecture that he wrote.
That's really bad. Like, so at some point, somebody did take all these Neville books and writings and did them in Neville's voice, which is great. But now I feel like it's actually really hard to find the real Neville.
Yeah, it really is. It's getting very hard to find the actual.
You know what? Actually, Brian, I just realized I have a gig of like Neville Goddard audio. I almost wonder if we should create another channel and just like upload.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, maybe we should upload all those videos, because it seems like it's so hard to find the actual.
So we'll keep originals. You guys posted. Yeah. We're gonna try.
Maybe that's a project we should do. They're not the price. They might not be the best quality, but at least they'll be authentic.
Yeah. And then what we could do is some of them too will do the full lecture so they can listen to, but also if they just want like a little Neville shot, we can do those shorts where we just put like a little
that'd be cool to do
portion of the lecture on there too for them, like a little shot of Neville, and give you a little quick boost. So, right. and again, I know we keep saying we're going to work on doing lives and maybe some retreats and stuff like that. It's just really kind of hard to organize that while, like with basketball, I never played basketball in high school or college or anything. I literally had to go learn how to be a coach and how to teach these girls how to play basketball. And thank God the other coach played, but I wanted to also, help them grow this year. So I really took it seriously, like my daughter, and I was watching drill things and teaching her how to do it so she could show the girls. And it just took up so much time. But it's really important to me that, I get that time with her. And we love you guys. We do. And we want to help you guys out too. But sometimes you guys got to help yourselves out too. There are people that always complain no matter what we do. Oh, can you put it in this format, or can you do, like with my post, I remember I would just word vomit. People like, can you do me a favor and use punctuation and grammar? And can you separate your thoughts?
White space.
And there was always some guy who'd be like, dude, he's giving you the answers. Just shut up and take it. I was like, thank you. But then I also realized I need to do that stuff a little bit more too. But, so we're going to always try, but you have to understand that our families are going to come first. Our work is going to come first, but you can always reach out and get a fresh set of eyes on the sub. You can always leave comments on the podcast, and we get back to you there as well. And, but we're going to try to do more interactive stuff with you guys. Unfortunately, we won't be able to do it for everybody. It'll probably be a group of maybe 20 so that we know that everybody who's in that live can get their questions answered. And also we want to, make sure that it's people who are serious too. So we're going to try to figure out how to do that to weed out the crazy people. But really pay attention where you're getting your stuff from. I'm not a fan of YouTube, and I know that's really crazy to say considering we put our podcast on YouTube, but these quick little, this is all you have to do segments. It is a lifestyle. You have to learn this. You're not going to get something from some influencer's 5-minute video and then it's going to click. If you've already done a bunch of studying, absolutely, that might happen. But if you're brand new to it and you're not reading and you're just watching YouTube videos and reading success stories, a lot of times the success stories don't have the full journey in it either. That would put your mind at ease too. You have to go take the journey, and you have to go into it knowing that God wouldn't put you through all this if he wasn't going to give it to you. So trust the process, trust the journey, trust God, and be really careful where you get your information from. I see on Reddit so many subs. There's one sub that had nobody on it, and then all of a sudden it had more than, I think it's getting close to the actual Neville Goddard sub. And it too gives really bad answers because it's a bunch of people who haven't done it all trying to get each other to go do things to see if it works. And none of the people on there have actually manifested anything, and then they get the, it's really funny. I noticed the other subs, when they got new mods, kind of did the same thing. No more of this bad talk, no more of these bad posts. I think that's great because it keeps the sub clean, it keeps it pure, it keeps it what it's about, and then people aren't getting bad information.
Keep it on topic.
Yeah. I think the Neville Goddard sub has done a much better job with that than when I was on it. I don't really look at the other Neville subs, but they seem to have some good mods over there and not let you get. You have to understand, when you take the time to script that out, that's what you're doing. You're scripting it out and putting it out there. Don't be surprised if that bad situation keeps going.
Yeah.
Instead of taking that time to script it out, take that time to affirm its opposite, visualize its opposite. Tell yourself, again, I always tell you guys, start with a calming statement. Then what's your story about you and God? Tell that new story. God's always there for me. God always comes through for me. What's your story about you and love or you and money or whatever it is, and if it's bad, change it to money always flows to me. Money comes to me quickly, easily, and make it believable by the thousands. If you don't believe you can get 1,000, by the hundreds. If you got to start off manifesting $10, do it. Get really good at manifesting $10. Then I'm getting $10 all the time, anytime I want. So I can just put them all together and I got 100. Put them all together and I got 1,000. You know, but then say, let me kick it up a notch. Let me say I get $100 now, $1,000 now. That's what I did. I wanted to hit 100,000 in the bank, and that's how I got there really quickly. Was saying thousands at first, and then tens of thousands, and then when I got to the 100,000, hundreds of thousands, and so you keep going. You're like, now you say, you know, everything after that, you just keep going and going, but stick on it. Stick with the one denomination until you really believe and show yourself you can manifest it over and over and over again, and then you'll realize, well, if I can manifest $10,000, I can manifest $100,000. If I can manifest $100,000, I can manifest $1 million, and before you know it, you're rich. You're actually rich. And Anders, you and I, remember we would do we're balling the fuck out. We wouldn't say anything about like, you know, we're going to Trader Joe's because it's cheaper. We're like, I'm not getting that fucking, you know, $2 chuck. I'm getting the $6.99 wine, you know. Let's get our wives drunk in 69 on the $6.99 wine, you know. And it was like, you know, we would always refer to that Dave Chappelle sketch where he was like, come on in my house, see this chandelier? It's made of all the expensive chicken dinners I had. You know, he's like, this is African art, but Africans are poor. That shit ain't baller, man. Get it out of here. You know, and he's like, oh shit, I got a pterodactyl egg in my freezer. And he like pulls it out and he cracks it. And he's like, oh shit, look at this. I got a baby pterodactyl. We're going to fry him up and eat his ass. I'm rich, bitch. You know, it was like, so we started talking like that, right? Like, I'd be like, oh man, I balled the fuck out today. I bought not one, not two, but 3 basketballs. You know, like I didn't buy the $14.99. I got that $24.99 ball. I splurged, son. And we would joke around about it, but like it just kind of became our thing, and we started believing it. And that's around the time you hit that huge, like really big, like more than people make in 2 or 3 years. You know, and I started manifesting money through the roof too, and it was all because we kind of took the stress off of it. And then when money really did come in, we would also be like, yo, for real though, I did manifest a shit ton of money, man. You know, and so it was like joking around, but then it would really come in too. And we would be like, you know, I really did get it. So I'm going to go get a fucking steak dinner tonight. Fuck these chicken dinners. I'm getting steak tonight, you know? And before we knew it, things were good, you know? And that's how you guys do it. Practice, 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 discipline, discipline, persistence. And the best thing I ever heard was what Anders told me, these memory stones, and using it as your data to prove to you that God is with you. God is on the journey with you, and you got nothing to worry about. And once you lose that worry and you have that belief, shit happens fast. That's so right. Fast. What is really funny, I think I told you the story about one of my clients who was like, you didn't tell me how crazy it gets with self-love, because she was like, I read the Bible even more than Neville now, and I really like, even though I'm with my guy, I do a lot of self-love. And she has a job where she gets to show, you know, dignitaries and all this stuff around, and this sheik or whatever was like offering her a bunch of money to be his third wife or something like that, something crazy. And she's like, and that's not even like the craziest thing, like people just come up and want to like, you know, fall in love with me or tell me how much they like me, or she's like, the more I love myself, the more the world is just this very loving, warm place. And that's how you know you got there. You guys are always like, how do I know I get there? Trust me, you will know. The world around you will change. It'll be very evident. So if that hasn't happened yet, get your ass in gear and keep going. And don't stop until you get there. And every time you want to quit, like what was that movie where the guy would just punch himself in the dick a bunch of times? Or like he's trying to pump himself up. Oh, why is he punching himself in the dick? Because he's showing himself no pain. He's just getting going whack, 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 you know. And he's like, he's crazy. He's like, I know, but that's why we're gonna win, you know. But you got to kind of be like that. Like you're like, no pain, no pain. That's why I reference Rocky, Superman 3, killing the old you. Rocky, all your heart, all your love, all your pain. Use it to motivate yourself. Use it to get what you want and believe. And then also lean on God. He loves when you do that. And that love feels better than any hug. The only hug that's come close to that, I'll be honest, is a hug from my daughter. You know, a hug from kids always makes you feel like, wow. You know, your spouse can do it too. But like, I can't explain it to you. It is a love that you are like, this is amazing. And you realize you don't need them anymore. You want them and you love them. It's great. but like this feeling from God there's nothing that can compare to it. And you keep chasing that feeling of having it. That's what you're really chasing. You're not even chasing them. You're chasing the feeling of what it's like when you have it. And that feeling that you're really searching for is not something they can even give you. It comes from God. And he can give that to you in an instant, right now, if you ask him to. And if you believe and you just cry out to him, because remember, that's what you told me to do. I was like, dude, I don't feel anything. I feel like God doesn't love me. I was obsessed with that movie, Kingdom of Heaven. Remember, I was like, I feel like I need to go on like some journey. Like, I got to find God because he's abandoned me. He doesn't, and you're like, holy fucking drama queen, but he doesn't leave you. He doesn't leave you.
It's true.
He's right there. You got to believe. So cry out to him. Force him to hear you, So do you have any more of that? Because I know you had
yes.
some
we have a bunch
Bible
of stuff
quotes.
to go over.
Let's go over that now. Yeah, I'll let you kind of take over.
So next thing we have is just to tying in with that, Neville. So we're talking about, be in San Francisco, right? And then Neville says, another quote I had was, now have a wonderful, wonderful experience in your imagination and make it real. And he says, give it all the sensory vividness, all the tones of reality. And when it seems real to you and you're thinking from it, it's done. So that means that it feels like you're in it, like you're seeing it like in front of your eyes. You know what I mean? Like you're actually sitting in a chair.
Pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's like, so it's also about the good feeling it gives you of the experience and having it done. But he's also talking about it's sort of like putting on your VR suit, and so you're in the virtual reality of your imagination. So really get in there and just really feel it real. And so that's a really famous quote, I think, too, that give it all the sensory vividness, all the tones of reality.
Yeah, because that's what makes it. That's what I was saying. Like your scene, make it a emotionally charged scene because it does make you feel all the vividness of the senses, and you feel alive. And again, those of you saying I can't do that, how come you can picture you getting bullied and what it felt like, and then you can't believe in something good and feel it? It doesn't make any sense.
Or even just try something neutral. I mean, just whatever feels believable to you, believe it.
Yeah,
that's part of the point. It's like you're not saying like don't try to believe something unbelievable because then you won't believe it and then it won't work and then you'll be disappointed. So try to find something which is believable and then like do baby steps. So we're not saying like you're going to be expert exactly what it is, or maybe you also too, you won't even necessarily know exactly what it is that you really should be focusing on initially. That's not a promise.
But God will show you. God
exactly.
Will show you.
But you got to be confident that it'll develop and unveil itself. Okay, so the other big quote, Neville quote I had was, you bring things in by believing. So it's like they're drawn into you. The events are drawn to you. The objects are drawn to you. The people are drawn to you. So Neville says, you bring things in by believing. You're always believing ahead of your evidence. So it's like the evidence catches up with you. You have to be the leader and get out there and go there in your imagination and then watch the events come to you. And then Neville says in the same sentence or a series of sentences, the most creative thing in man is to believe a thing in. And that, again, is the title of the essay, Believing It In. Definitely a really good essay from 1966. It talks about Robert Frost and very much worth reading. So, and again, as Brian was saying, like, unfortunately now, used to be, I remember when I look up Neville Goddard, like I just find all these great like old video clips and recordings, and like I listened to so many of them, so I knew his voice, right? But now it's like there's all this AI stuff, but I'm lucky enough that I've listened to some of this stuff like over 10 years ago now. So I have like a gig of recordings on my hard drive. So I know his voice now. So it's like I hear the AI stuff and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, this is not him. It's not even something he would write. Because I know him and his voice and what it is. So that's why go read the books. Go read it's fine to read the lectures too. Read the books, read the lectures, read the real thing. Really see what he's saying. Like really like meditate on it. kind of unpack it to yourself, talk to yourself about it, ask God to help you understand. Go read the Bible, go read the quotes he gives you, go read the quotes, not just read them in context as well. So that's what I want to encourage you guys all. And then is this a good time for the Bible story time?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do Bible story time. So it's funny, I was thinking about this, and I actually have so many quotes from the Bible, so I'm going to try to pop some of those into the description on YouTube. So there'll be lots and lots of stuff for you guys to read. There's actually some really good ones, because I was thinking about this, like, what happens in the Bible with all these things of, the data, and do people, and it's interesting. There's a lot of kind of the context of there's a lot of stories going on the Bible. One of the big stories does seem to be that, people are always complaining that God's not coming through for them.
Yeah.
And it's a real theme.
It's almost like that's human nature.
Yeah.
While you're not a believer, that's what you do all the time. And then when you're a believer, still sometimes in the beginning, you're like, well, come on, like everything else worked out. Why not? I don't know. Human beings are weird.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was just thinking about it reading quotes, and one of the things that just came up with this story in the Bible about, because I've been reading Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers to my wife lately, and we're still going through Numbers. And then I was also had the opportunity to teach some of the kids in our church, our sort of version of Sunday school, and we were going over some really good stories. And so basically, hopefully context you guys remember is everybody leaves Egypt. Moses takes them out. There's all these like crazy miracles. They all leave Egypt, and then eventually they end up in the Promised Land. So this is about the details of how they get there. So like sort of the sort of short version is like, oh yeah, they leave and then they go to the Promised Land and they take over, and it's like, okay, that's that. So that's kind of like the quick version. But the interesting thing is that actually it's not what happens. What happens is that they leave and then they don't go to the Promised Land, and actually they disobey God, and they get in trouble, and they get stuck. They get stuck through. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's true. They disobey actually in many serious and many. They actually disobeyed many times in many different and serious ways. So it's all actually pretty bad. So they actually get lost in the wilderness for 40 years, and they get lost because of their lack of faith and belief. And so it's a really revealing story. So why do they get lost?
And isn't it that the original group never actually gets in, but their children do?
That's right.
Their children grew up believers, and it was shown to them instantly.
What happens is that the parents, they gotta leave Egypt, and they're still slaves in Egypt. They're still slaves in their heart. They still have like that Bob Marley song, like, they're not freed from mental slavery. So in their minds, they still have this sort of slave mentality, but their children in the new generation are born free. So this is what happens is that, things are moving along. They unfortunately did have an unfortunate incident with the golden calf, and that wasn't good. But they're like, okay, well, let's go check out this Promised Land. And so, Moses sends out Joshua, who's going to be the leader who does go into the Promised Land, but that's 40 years down the road. So he's going to send out Joshua and a leader from each of the 12 tribes, and that includes Caleb. And Caleb is the leader of the tribe of Judah, and the tribe of Judah is the lion, and Jesus's tribe, and the tribe of David. And so they're like the kings as well. So all these people go into the Promised Land. They're told to go spy out the Promised Land. So they go out and they walk around, and then all of a sudden they find they're like, wow, everybody's like giants, and then they find these like giant grapes, and like a bunch of grapes is so huge, and the grapes are so big that they can't even carry it. They have to like take a stick, like a pole, and somehow like attach the grapes to the pole and like carry this like long span of grapes. It's like they're like little grasshoppers, and there's these like big giants. So they come back to so they come back to Moses, and so Caleb and Joseph are like, yeah, we spied. I was like, Caleb and Joshua are like, yeah, we spied out the land. There's we're ready to go. So, but then all the other Israelites like start freaking out, and they're like, what's going on? We're like grasshoppers in their sight. There's all these giants everywhere. Like, there's no way we could take this place. This is like impossible. This is crazy. Like, God, what are you doing to us? Like, why'd you take us out of Egypt? This is terrible. Like, we want to go back and have some onions and stuff back in Egypt. This would be so much better. You're just, we're just being brought out here to die, to like be killed by everybody and all that. So what's really funny about this story, I think, is that, well, first of all, one thing which is interesting is God does actually say, and I think this should be encouraging to everyone, God does actually say, hey, you're going to go in and take this land. But he also says, but you're not going to do it all at once. He's like, so don't even worry about it. Don't even sweat it. Like, you're just going to come in and take it piece by piece. And, you're going to kick out, the demon worshiping, child sacrificing, people who live there. And they're sort of demonic giants who live there. And so they're all going to be gone. But, don't worry about it. Like, it's just going to happen like over time. And which is encouraging, right? It's like you don't have to do it all at once. And so these people are freaking out, but they forgot, right? They forgot that, like, what did they just go through, right? They came out of Egypt, and they just lived through a bunch of crazy stuff. The Red Sea was parted, right? And then to top it off, they've done this whole thing where they saw God on a mountain. And then I'm pretty sure at this point they've also built a tabernacle. So it's like, well, God is literally, the whole point of Leviticus and all these laws, right, is especially the Levitical laws. It's interesting. It's the more I read it, I feel like it's about sin, but it's really about the sin that prevents God from tabernacling or inhabiting this tabernacle and being on top of the Ark of Covenant, which is kind of preventing him from coming down to earth to being with his people. It's like, you got to stop. It's like, you kind of got to follow these rituals in order for me to like be here and come down to earth and inhabit with you in this form. And later, in the book of John, Jesus comes and he tabernacles with us. That's actually what they're talking about, is that God inhabits the form of a man instead of inhabiting a tent or inhabiting the Ark of Covenant. So they have this Ark of Covenant, and God comes down as a pillar of cloud during the day and pillar of fire at night. And so it's like, and the pillar comes up, and it's like, okay, time to go. We gotta go follow the pillar wherever it goes, and the pillar goes somewhere, and they have to pack up all their tents and everything, and take all their animals and pack up the tabernacle and go follow that. So it's like, this is crazy, right? Because God's done all this crazy stuff, but God's like, showing up in a very literal form, in the form of a cloud, and a pillar of fire, and and people are like, it's like, how could this possibly work out? Like, how could things possibly work out? It's like, well, you have all this data, right? There's so much data that these people had in their lives, right? They witnessed like miracle after miracle and just completely insane stuff. It'd be one thing if they were like, I'm getting out of here. This is like too crazy for me.
Yeah.
Like, that would make sense. But instead they're like, no, things can possibly work out. There can possibly be a plan here. So what's very interesting then is to then contrast this with what's I'm gonna bring up in a few minutes. So yeah, as we were saying, that the whole old generation dies out, and finally it's 40 years later, there's like a new generation. And so now it's like, okay, now it's time to bring these people into the promised land. Now we're gonna do it. So one of the big things to happen, this is a good I don't know the exact Neville Goddard story, but I'm sure you can look it up. There's a Neville Goddard talks about Jericho and the taking of Jericho. And one of the things which happens is that, to me, this really stuck in my mind, and I think it's a famous Neville passage. So the spies, what happens is Joshua sends spies into Jericho. It's this big, fortified city. It's really ancient. Even back then, it's ancient. And so what happens is this, and I think God tells Joshua, wherever your foot treads, there you shall take. So he's given that promise to Joshua. Joshua and Caleb are, both, they've been believers this whole time. They knew it was possible. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to have to backtrack a minute too. So this is really, really funny. So after all the people complain about how, we can't possibly go in and conquer it, we can't conquer it, God gets all mad at them. And he's like, all right, fine. And then he's like, I don't know if he might even explicitly say then, like, but anyway, I forget if that's when he says, okay, you guys are going to have to wait 40 years or whatever. But he's like, okay, fine, whatever. And then the people are like, then the people get all like embarrassed and freaked out. And they're like, okay, no, God, you're right. You're wrong. We're going to go in and attack and invade the promised land. And God's like, no, you're not, because I'm not in it anymore.
Yeah, he's tired of it.
Yeah, it's like, I'm tired of this. No, you're not doing that. Like,
well, if you think about it, it goes all the way back to Moses, even, right? When God's charging Moses with this, Moses comes to him and he's like, well, what do you want me to do? And he's like, hold my beer, bitch, but watch, plagues. You could do this too. And he's like, well, and every time he, charges Moses again, it's like, but how do I do it? How do I do it? The same thing with the parting of the Red Sea. Moses is even kind of asking then, and is it the angel or somebody tells Moses, like, take your staff and drive it into the ground, and then the sea parts for him, But every time they get a chance, they're always like, how, God, can you do it, God? And he's getting, that's why I tell you guys, when you start to get these signs and you start to get the evidence and you get the job and you don't appreciate it, God is going to get sick of it and be like, hey, well, let me show you what it used to be. And he doesn't need you to be grateful. God doesn't need anything from you. But he wants you to understand what you have and learn these lessons of when things are good and when things are bad, and and have these experiences,
so,
because that's the whole reason you're here.
So what happens, right, is that God's like, no, I'm not in it. Like, no, you're not going to do that. Don't do that. And so, of course, what happens? Well, of course, then they do it. So instead of going in when God was into it, and God was saying it, and instead of believing on him, then they go in with God telling them not to. And then they say, I'll go run in. And of course, they all get their butts kicked by the people who live there. And God's like, I told you I wasn't in it. Like, what are you guys thinking? So, So then they end up, getting stuck in the wilderness for 40 years. And there's a bunch of adventures along the way. But they're not going into the actual promised land. They're stuck.
But this is how God loves you too, is because he keeps putting up with your lack of belief over and over and over again. And every once in a while, he gives you a little, slap across the mouth. And he's like, wake the fuck up. Like, you got the proof, you got the data. Like, start believing here, because I'm doing all the work, and he tells you, you meet me halfway, I'll meet you more than halfway. You don't do anything.
Well, exactly.
Put rock upon your ass, and you'll just sit there,
But yeah, it gives people a chance for their hearts to soften,
which is free will.
And
that's your free will, is to be able to repent. So when you guys talk about nobody has free will, that's the free will is between you and God. It's not between them rejecting you or saying no to this or no to being your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Free will is God giving you the choice to believe in him and get everything you want, or not believe in him, and then you're in hell, which is the absence of God, because he's not giving you anything you want. And that's why Neville tells you, hey, people, just because you can do it doesn't mean you will. So realize that and do the work, right? This guy today was like, do circumstances really matter? And I was like, yes and no. If you say they matter, they matter. If you believe they don't, then they don't. But if you're not going to read and study this stuff, then chances are they're going to matter. And if things are getting worse, maybe that is a sign you should get to work, And again, guys, fear is a motherfucker. And if you have fear about something, well, it's going to show up. So just don't give it any power. But, God really loves you if he keeps giving you chance after chance, and he gives you the free will to decide. Because normally when somebody gets mad at you, like a parent, they go, God damn it, give it to me. Get over here and just do what I say. And then you get yelled at and you're told what to do, and it's not a great experience. God's like, you want to keep fucking around? Keep fucking around. I'll keep helping you. But like at the same time too, like, I don't know, like, when are you going to believe, Yeah. And
so let's, So what happens, right? So then after all this, then 40 years later, it's like, okay, now it's finally time to go into the promised land, right? And so the first stop, or the first battle of conquest, is they're going to go in and they're going to take Jericho, which is this ancient walled city. And so it's an important thing, right? Where Joshua is told by the Lord, where your foot treads, that I'll give to you, like that you'll conquer, that you'll take, something to that effect. So what happens, right, is Joshua actually sends 2 spies into Jericho. And it's interesting, right? So, because Joshua doesn't actually go into Jericho himself,
but
he sends in 2 spies, right? So their feet tread, but it's on Joshua's behalf, and so they're kind of almost like going in, and so Neville uses that as an analogy of like going in the imagination. He sends in the spies, and then also what happens, right? And so then what happens when the spies go in there is they go in and there's this woman there, Rahab, who's a prostitute or a harlot. And so what's funny is that the men...
there's always a prostitute. In all these stories, there's always a prostitute.
Well, it's funny too, because actually in Jesus's lineage, I forget it was Matthew or whoever, who lays out the lineage, he actually takes the time to mention 4 women. Was it Rahab, Ruth, Tamar, and one other woman, and they all have like really kind of spicy stories like around them. Like
well, even God knows sex sells, so he put a little in there.
Well, no, but it's interesting because the women whose lineage is, because it's like mainly it's a list of men, right? And then he's like he'll kind of throw these things in here, like like
right when you're about to check out of the Bible, so wait, prostitute? Well, listen up now.
Well, yeah, there's all sorts of crazy stuff in the Old Testament for sure. And then so anyway, so they go in and they kind of like hide out with like this prostitute Rahab, which kind of makes sense in a way because it's like, she's like available for sale. She'll like, let strange men come in, and Neville Goddard makes some analogies with that as well. And so it's like these spies come in and, they inhabit the city, and then they stay with the prostitute, and then who's accepting and willing to, accept these like strange men. And then, so that's kind of like the precursor to the conquest. And then, but what's also interesting about this is when you go in and if you read the part in the Bible where you're talking about Rahab, see what Rahab says, because what Rahab says is that they talk to her and she's like, hey, I'll tell you, I'm going to make a deal with you guys. Like, I'm going to help you guys out and everything. But what you got to do is when you leave is you got to like, and you come back and you take over the city, is you got to like make sure my family is going to be safe because I helped you guys out. And they're like, yeah, sure. No problem. We'll definitely do that for you. They live up to their promise. Which is, I guess how she becomes one of the ancestors of Jesus. So, and then why does she do this? Well, it's interesting because she's like, well, I heard, faith comes by hearing, as it says in the Bible. Well, I heard all about, you and your God and like all the, crazy things that happened, all these, things of how powerful your God is and all that. So, I'm trying to, either essentially saying like either I'm on board with him or I'm trying not to get caught up in the middle of this. I'm trying to save myself. So yeah, I'm on your team. So I think that's a really interesting contrast, right, between her, like she heard the data secondhand, right? Her faith came by hearing. She didn't even, they didn't have TV or anything or videos or anything. She just heard rumors about the crazy stuff going on, like, in the neighboring nations. And so she's like, well, I have faith, but it's interesting because the actual Israelites who came out of Egypt, even though they saw this stuff for real themselves, they didn't really believe it. They didn't really think that God could make it happen. But this woman who was in the impending path of what was about to happen, she was like, oh, I know this can happen.
I feel like that is a running theme throughout the Bible. Is like, you even look at Jesus' times, right? The disciples are watching him do all the miracles, this and that, still doubting. But then the person who Jesus heals and has the biggest impact on is the guy who heard through the grapevine, Jesus is going to be like the blind man. It was going to be somewhere around here. And the blind guy decides, I'm going to sit here because I believe Jesus will pass me. He'll heal
can't
me.
Even see.
And, he has no idea where he's at. If he's anywhere close, he wouldn't even see Jesus.
He never saw the miracles. He never saw a miracle in his life.
And Jesus is like, telling him too, hey man, the moment you sat down here, you were healed. You just had to open your eyes. I just came here to open your eyes. Like the whole mud on the eye thing is almost like theatrical, because Jesus knows as human beings, we like a little, theater with our dinner and, so he does the whole mud on his eyes, but then he tells them, like, truly though, like, you were healed the moment you sat down. Same thing with the woman with blood, right? He's just like the like, I love how much faith you had. And like, yeah, it's done now. You were right. Like, thinking that you just had to touch a little thread of my clothing and that would be enough. And you had that much faith in me. Yeah, absolutely. Look, you don't bleed anymore. Right. And Jesus is like, not even afraid to touch her. He's like, this woman's not clean. And the rabbi's like, you all have to go sit in the water. And he's like, fine, we'll go sit in the water. He goes, when they go heal this dead girl, bring her back to life and we'll all go jump in the river, or the water. And that's what they do. Like, but he's blown away. These people who have no evidence, have never seen Jesus perform a miracle, they're just hearing about it word of mouth, have way more faith in him than these 12 guys who pal around with him and see him do stuff. And then after he's done, he walks away. They're like, did you see that? Was that a magic trick? Did it real? God must be real. And they debate it. And they're like, he's like, and he says to him, like with Thomas, right? He's like, you've seen it all and you still doubt, and that's why he says, blessed are those who've never seen and believe. They're true believers, because, it's like that couple that befriends Jesus, the disciples, again, they're seeing everything. And the other couple's like, well, before we saw, we believed, but now we've seen and, we believe the same amount because we just had that belief. They tell him, they're like, well, was your belief increased? They're like, well, no, you either believe or you don't. You either have total belief or you don't. Like, but, you guys see it more than anybody. Why are you not believing? It's like when Jesus sends the disciples to go raise another dead guy. And they're like, great. And they get there and like, oh, well, he didn't tell us how to do that, And then they kind of decide they have to get faith, and it ends up working out, But yeah, the Bible is full of people who witness all this stuff and don't believe, but then there's somebody who's never even seen, it's been word of mouth, and they have more faith than the people who have seen. And in the case of the blind guy, it's literally like, the guy who wouldn't be able to see it if he wanted to, and he has more faith than the people who can see and have witnessed it. And that's how you have to be. You have to just believe. And a lot of you guys are trying to get something to make you believe, and then you say you'll believe when it happens, but then you don't. You turn into a disciple. You get proof after proof after proof after proof, and you still don't believe. You're like, yeah, but I didn't get it with this. Yeah, but she's still not here. Yeah, but he still hasn't called and texted. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? It doesn't mean it's also not going to happen. What good is the text if the text is, hey, do you have my sweatshirt? Right? So what? He messaged you. She messaged you. Who cares? Believe if they're going to, go to the end and see it done. They're texting me because we're back together, we're in love, and my boyfriend is texting me, are you ready for our wonderful anniversary evening that I planned for you? Right? And you're thinking, I'm so happy because tonight I'm going to tell him I'm pregnant, or tonight he's going to propose, or tonight I'm going to propose. And instead, you guys, can it really happen? You want to waste so much time, like the person today. Do circumstances really happen because now there's a third party and things are looking really bad? Well, yeah, you keep saying things are getting worse. So surprise, surprise, they're getting worse, but it's not. You're literally creating that. You created the third party by worrying about a third party. Again, you can't be worried about something unless you believe it. So face your fears and show yourself they have no power and they're bullshit. And also trust God, because he'll do that job for you. He'll shine a light on the fear and show you that there's nothing to be afraid of. That it's a little chicken hawk with a flashlight behind it. I always think of, again, I don't know if I've told this on here before, but our other friend Trevin and we love obscure 80s sitcoms. And our favorite was Different Strokes and Facts of Life and stuff. But I watch Different Strokes with my daughter all the time, and I was so excited when they finally introduced the Gooch. And my daughter's like, who's the Gooch? I was like, the Gooch. I forgot about the Gooch. She's like, Dad, who's the Gooch? I was like, the Gooch is this imaginary bully who we never see. We never see the Gooch or how tough he is or how big he is or whatever. But you see Arnold from the camera point of view going, okay, Gooch. But what you see behind Arnold is Willis, right? And Arnold's thinking, I'm finally standing up and I'm going to tell the gooch, even if he punches me, at least I have my pride. But Willis is really behind him, and he just takes his finger like across his neck, and then he goes like dead.
Nice.
And the gooch is like, shit, I'm out of here. Or like Happy Days, Fonzie, every time Richie goes to stand up for himself, he doesn't realize Fonzie's right behind him, right? And Fonzie's like doing the same thing, like dead meat. And then he turns around and goes, oh, Fonz, you missed it. I just scared away. He goes, yeah, I know, man. That was great. You really stood up to him. But really, they ran because Fonzie was behind them, like about to give him a knuckle sandwich. That's you and God. When you go face your fear, God is right behind you telling the fear, like, even if you're not afraid of my man here and he's being brave, I got his back now. So like, we're one now. You're in deep shit, fear, and fear runs away. If you face it and you let God help you face it, it can't beat you. And then you have no belief in it. And when you have no belief in fear, it has zero power. In fact, its power comes from your belief. So if you decide you're not going to believe it, if you decide you're going to stand up and kick it in the dick, punch it in the dick, it's going to go away. And it's not going to have any power over you. And then the great thing that happens is your self-concept goes up because you're like, look at that. I'm changing. I was afraid of this. I let this get the best of me in the past. I'm not like that anymore. I don't react anymore. I do have faith. Look at that too. God showed me there's nothing to be afraid of. God showed me he was with you. This is how you build your self-concept. This is how you build your belief, is these victories, these battles. Because again, it's like I said, you ask God for courage. He doesn't go Shazam and you have courage. He gives you a bunch of chances to show yourself you're courageous and you have courage. And that's what this journey is. You guys are so caught up in the SP and when they're coming back and if they can come back that you're forgetting they have nothing to do with this journey. The money has nothing to do with this journey. This journey is about you becoming one with God, you becoming a believer in you and God, you realizing God is not outside of you, up in the heavens, that he makes up every little molecule, cell, everything that makes you up. That's how close you are with God. So there is absolutely no way you can fail. But God has given you this wonderful gift of free will, and you get to decide if you believe or not. Because if he doesn't do that, you're not really believing in him anyway. He's forcing you to believe him. He's telling you you have to. He's like, so he's like, it's all up to you. But that's why nobody has free will in your world. Because the free will is about you and God. You believing in God. You believing that God will come through for you. It has nothing to do with like, I'll reject this person. It's will you reject God or will you believe in God? And that's what makes things appear or not appear. And again, that's the importance of testing and analyzing that data. If you're not testing all the time and then reading so that you learn from your tests, because you're going to do those tests and come to conclusions, and then it's just so happens you're going to pick up that book that night and it's going to be about what you just learned, and you're going to know this is how God talks to you. I learned this lesson today. Then I'm reading about this lesson and it's expanding on it. This is God telling me, yep, that was me. I was there. I was with you. We make a great team, don't we? We should keep doing this. And you go, what a coincidence. No. Face the gooch. Face the gooch. Go toe to toe with the gooch. Maybe we'll make an episode about the gooch, facing the gooch. But you got to face those fears and you got to choose to believe. And the easiest way to believe is by testing it and looking at that data, good and bad. The bad things I manifested, I did manifest them because I was worried this was going to happen. I was afraid she was going to leave me. I was afraid of a third party. I was afraid of that other girl coming in now that we're broken up and trying to get with them. Then you're going to set it up. But if you go, that's ridiculous. Because the truth is too about love, guys, let's get off the whole, what we're talking about. I just want to say this. When you're in love with somebody and they're in love with you, when you break up, you don't just fall in love with somebody else. You might rebound with somebody else, but that's even more proof that they love you because they can't stand being without you and being alone. A rebound is, I can't take being without you and I know I can't get you back, or, we have our problems. So I'm going to like try to take my mind off it with something stupid, but it's more proof they actually love you. You don't fall, like, think about you. When you've fallen out of love, when you've broken up with somebody, you don't fall out of love with them really until you fall in love with somebody else. But that doesn't happen right away. Unless you're like a crazy limerence person and you have love addiction, which I'm going to be honest, a lot of people that have SP problems have that problem, But this whole thing is about putting you first, your mental health, your spiritual health, your belief first. And a lot of you guys are trying to take this journey before you do any of that stuff, before you get you right. Once you get right with you, and once you get right with God, as every single one of my clients have told you, getting the SP to come back to you is the easiest part of it. They show up right away. But it's when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, when you're not being the best version of yourself, that you don't believe you deserve stuff. And because you don't believe you deserve it, you don't get it. But God is like, you're worthy, you're deserving. I'm telling you, you are. And then here, you're testing it. I'm showing you, I'm definitely here. I'm definitely helping you. I'm definitely going to give it to you. But when you don't take care of those things, you won't believe in yourself. You won't have that faith in you. And like we said before, your faith in God is equivalent to the faith you have in yourself. So if you have no faith in you, then you have no faith in God. And usually it's vice versa too. The amount of faith you have for God is the amount of faith you have in yourself, which is none. The amount of faith you have with your SP, the amount of faith you have that money will come to you, the amount of faith you have that you'll have a good life. It's all related. If you do the work on you, you might never have to do any work on your SP. The only time I've seen when people have to do SP work is me, for example, when I got the divorce and everything stopped, and then I was like, but she's not back. And I was like, oh, but I realized I spent most of what I was affirming, most of the time going, it stopped, goes no further, and everybody forgets about it. And that's what happened. So now I just got to do that with her. And then also I said, I still have a story about her that she doesn't see it. And then I said, let me stop telling that story. And when I stopped telling that story, I instantly started to see a change. And I was like, well, she's definitely seeing something because she's coming around. The anger is going away slowly but surely. She's being nicer. She's giving me the benefit of the doubt. She's giving me more time. She's doing favors for me. She would only do that if she saw that I was really changing and that things could get better. And that, I was becoming a different person. And then again, I looked around and everybody else was telling me what a great father I was. I was like, well, then how come she can't see it? I was like, stop saying that. She sees it. I'm a great loving husband. Like, I never really understood that at first when you would tell me you can be a loving husband without her being there. I was like, how? And it was like, because your wife is not next to you 24/7. Yeah, your mental diet, how you think about her, what you think about her, how you're going to show up for her when she's acting bad. Because if you were together right now and you were in a fight, you would still not want to make it worse by acting bad too. So pretend because you really are in a fight. So just be right now. You're still married. You're in a fight. Maybe you're not living with each other, but it's like when you take a timeout and go in separate rooms. Just look at it that way and be like, well, I'm going to go in that room and be a good husband when she's upset and give love when she doesn't want to, because that's what, that's what'll get it to me in return, first of all. But like, also that's being a good husband. And then you believe, well, I deserve love back. I deserve love. And I can get it from God on top of it. And I can get it from myself, because when I do things that make me feel good about myself, I really feel loved. You can literally feel God being like, see, told you were good, told you were awesome. And then you go, I am. And then you keep building off of all that stuff, and your self-concept goes through the roof. But if you're trying to manipulate them, if you're, doing the bullshit and not being honest with yourself, and, you really know you're not doing the work, you haven't read the books, you haven't really studied, then you're not going to believe that this is going to work. If you're always doubting it, then do something to stop doubting it, because doubting is not doing the work. You guys tell me you're always on your mental diet, but what you guys do is you do a lot of work really quickly, but then you undo it all, and then you do a bunch again and undo it all. And then you're like, I'm so tired of all this fucking work. Yeah, but you also undid all the work. And then on top of it, you haven't fixed your belief. You haven't changed your story, any of it. So it's going to feel like you did a lot of work with no results. Get focused, get clear on what you want, get clear that God will give it to you, analyze that data and be like, it's showing me he is here. God has entered the building. God is giving me the things I'm asking for. Holy shit, I have telepathy. Holy shit, I said somebody was going to wear a weird ass outfit with a purple hat and red t-shirt and yellow shoes, and somebody did. And then he said howdy like I wanted him to. And he opened my door and said, let me buy you your coffee today. And you're like, one guy did all 6 of my things in like 5 minutes. Then create another 6 things. Because when you get good at the testing, your 6 things are going to show up right away. So make another 6 things. And then you guys are always like, I run out of stuff on like day 4 or 5. No, you don't. There's always shit you can create. Look around your house and be like, okay, I want to see a painting like the one in my living room out today. I'm going to see a painting of a picture of, the New York City or something, or I'm going to just, you can come up with I'm going to see a blue couch, or I'll see a blue chair or whatever. I'll see something blue, a car blue or whatever. Take the color of your sofa and be like, I'm going to see a bunch of blue shit today, whatever it is, and keep creating, keep showing yourself, and then believing that it came from God and it wasn't a coincidence. The people that I see bashing these things, I can tell you why they failed. They didn't actually ever really go for it and stick to their mental diets. And I get it. They worked hard, but they didn't work hard the right way. And it's unfortunate if you give up on this, because what kind of eats away at them and why they get so angry and why I got so angry was because I was like, but I keep seeing people do it though too. And then you start to develop this story. You're not chosen, you're not loved, but no, you're not believing. And again, the quickest way to believe is to look at everything God's giving you. Is it your SP right now? No. But if he's giving you that, why the hell wouldn't he give you the SP? Right? And why would he just give it to you unless you just believe? Because Neville tells you, the Bible tells you, if you just believe and jump and forget and surrender, you get it right now. If you don't, he'll give you motivation to keep going. But if you're not grateful for it, that starts to fade too. Or if you start complaining, well, I got this, but who gives a shit? I want her. Well, okay, then believe like you believed in that thing and you'll get her, because the moment God takes that away from you and forces you to believe, you've lost free will and your whole relationship loses its meaning, which is to believe in him and him believe in you. And he's not going to do anything to force you to believe in him. But if you just believe in him, he gives you everything you want. It's a rub, I know, but it makes sense. It's why God has not come down and told everybody, here I am. And then, by the way, now everybody has to listen to what I say, because that would take away your free will. These people were like, prove to me God exists. You know how you can prove he exists? He's never shown up. The whole religion is based off belief. So the moment he shows up, no one has to believe anymore. And the whole reason you're here is gone, so why even bother? But when you believe in the unseen, that's how miracles happen. Every person who's created a miracle, done something miraculous, they just had faith that it would happen. And a majority of the time, it was in the face of no way in hell, brother. And that's why they stopped talking to people. That's why God tells you go to your quiet place, because the truth is they can only reflect what you believe at that time. So go not listen to them, change your story, change your belief. However you change your beliefs, be it testing, beating it into your head, SATs, all the other techniques he gives you, whatever it takes. And you'll know you're believing when things start to show up. Is it going to be them right away or the money right away? It might be $1,000, not $1 million. It might be they finally call you and say, hey, thinking about you. Or another ex who you don't have a bad story. It's like, hey, I'd love to get back together with you. That's birds before land. Almost everybody I know that did this, myself included. Remember, I told you about the girl who wrote a poem about me from our first dance in 5th grade. Reached out to me when I was going through all of it. She actually reached out again because she moved to New York City and the poem's like really popular. And she wanted me to go to the reading, but I had basketball practice that night. But people were like, did you find him? But it was crazy. The girl I had my first kiss with, she reached out to me. And all these girls I dated that I thought had bad stories about me were like, you know what, man? You were young and like, I get it. And like, come on, I'm not going to hold you to that anymore. And look at who you turned out to be. And that's why I'm reaching out now. So it showed me that no matter what I did in the past, time heals all wounds. And when people start to see you're different, they will reach out to you. They will want to come back in your life. And when that happens, why can't it happen with your SP? Why can't you believe that God's showing you so that you'll believe more, and then he gives you your SP? He gives you the money.
Well, I think on that note, let's go ahead and read a few more Bible verses and then wrap this up. We're running out of time.
All right. Sounds good.
It's been a good, just going to be one of our longer episodes.
Yeah.
But guys, I hope there will be a line in here to encourage everybody. I'm sorry?
This is way past our bedtime. We're old men now. I'm 50 in a couple of months. You know?
All right. Well, I just want to read a couple. I'm going to put a whole bunch of verses up, but there's a couple in particular which really resonate with what Brian was just saying. So from 1 Samuel 17:37, David says, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." And he's talking about the giant.
Amen.
And then Psalm 77:11-12, which is written by David. David says, "I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will consider all your works and meditate on all your mighty deeds." So that's what he's doing to encourage himself. So unlike the Israelites who were too scared to go where they need to go, David's just getting encouraged by thinking about all the things that God's done. And then another one I really liked was Lamentations 3:21-23. "Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your thankfulness." So I think that's awesome. So, he's looking, he's calling to mind the data about what he knows about God, but he's also knowing that, every day is a new day, and God's, showing up for him every day in a new way. And so I think he's really encouraged by that. So I really like that one. So it's Lamentations 3:21-23. And all of these, we'll try to put these in the episode description. Okay, so there's a whole bunch more, but I'm just going to do two more. Proverbs 23:7. "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." So this is a great one. Definitely ties in with everything we're talking about with Neville Goddard. So, if you believe things are, one way, they'll start to become a reality, and you'll become that reality of how you think within your heart. So that's why the mental diet is so important, and why we're talking about this. Why you should focus on a mental diet of your imagination, and also, keeping in mind what's happened in the past, which is building up that faith. Okay, last one, Galatians 6:9. "Let us not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we do not faint." So I think that's a good reminder that even when we're not seeing results immediately, we don't want to grow weary in our well-doing and doing the right thing and loving one another, loving God.
Amen.
And because in due season, like, we will reap those seeds which we planted. They will sprout and grow, and there will be a harvest. And I think Neville Goddard uses that as an example, but I certainly like it as an example that it doesn't make any sense to start digging at the seed before it's sprouted to see how it's doing. So I want to encourage you guys, don't dig up the seeds while they're germinating, and